think the biggest aha moment that any person can have is when you realize it's not about like that all or nothing mindset, or it's not about being perfect.
This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
Could you do me a huge favor? That will only take you a few seconds. Could you help me to get this show discovered by more people who could benefit from it? You're thinking, yes, I want to help, but how do I do it? Here's how you do it. Please make sure that you are following the Begin Within podcast on whatever podcast listening platform that you are on right now, and also give it a rating. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please take 30 seconds to write a quick review about how much you love this show. If you've already done this, thank you so much. And if you're about to do it, thank you as well. Now, let's get into our episode. My guest today back on the show is Amanda Zagrodnik. She's been a nutritionist since 2014, and she's here today talking about how to be an expert at nutrition and at the same time, a real live parent. I'm so happy to have her back on the show today. Here are a few things that you can listen for in my interview with Amanda. And right away, she's going to talk about prioritizing and realistically how your priorities as a parent change in a major way as soon as you have kids, and your health might honestly be down a little bit farther than it used to be on the list of priorities. And we're going to talk about how, not necessarily how you can bring it up on the list of priorities, but just how you can realistically address your needs and those of your family when it comes to health, and in particular, your nutrition. She's going to talk about some very specific tips and tricks, some hacks, whatever you want to call them, just some ways that she gets the job done when it comes to taking care of her family's nutrition and, of course, her own, because she is an expert. She's someone that other people are looking to as an example. So she has to set the example, but you are going to love how refreshing her approach is. Just balanced and flexible, a way that just will relieve the pressure that you might be feeling when it comes to doing everything, trying to do everything. So enjoy this interview. Here's my interview with Amanda Zagrodnik.
As soon as you become a parent, that kind of becomes number one, and everything else that kind of defined you takes a little bit of a backseat, which can be hard. Can be really hard. I've always been really passionate about building my career and now building my business. And I've, in the last 2 years, accepted the fact that I'm a mom first and business comes second. And the hard thing is sometimes then health and yourself comes third or even 10th, depending on what else you have in line and on the docket. So what I tell my clients, and honestly myself every day, is it's super important to know that no one has it all together all the time. No matter what it looks like on the outside, everyone's got help, and there's often a lot more going on inside than what you see on the outside. Everything can look shiny, like, rainbows and butterflies all the time. You mentioned, my social media. The only reason my social media for my business looks the way it is because I have an employee that I pay to do it. I can't do it all. So I think the most important thing is to know that you can't do it all. It's not always going to be perfect. One of my favorite quotes is, you can have it all, but not at the same time. And so if you've got the goals to be running this, perfect business or perfect career, you've got the goals to have this perfect family, perfect marriage, perfect kids, and you also want to be healthy, you can achieve those things, but you can't be doing it all at 100% all at the same time. So obviously, owning a business in nutrition, being a nutritionist, it is extremely important to me that I take care of my health. Not only for how I feel, I want to feel day in and day out very well, but I have to sell myself every day too. And no one's going to put their trust in me if I'm not taking care of myself. That's pretty point blank. And you understand that with what you do for a living. But something that I've learned in the last couple of years is that different stages of life, taking care of your health can look different, and you have to allow for flexibility. So, 5 years ago for me, that might have meant meal prepping every Sunday and having the perfect meals set up every single day. And now what that means is I've always got a backup plan. And I allow for flexibility and understanding that every meal is not going to be perfect. And some days you just have to work with what's in front of you and focus on balance. So a lot of times when it comes to like prepping meals and trying to stay on top of being healthy, I joke with my clients, I only plan 4 dinners a week.
Okay.
Because I like to leave room for the world to blow up. Usually by Thursday, most people, and especially most parents, are like over it, not gonna be cooking the perfect dinner for the family. So I like to keep things like, we have some stuffed bell peppers in the freezer right now. It's only Wednesday and we're already there. That's what's going in the oven tonight. And I also always like to have like eggs on hand for an easy, quick, like breakfast for dinner. We make, eggs and toast, or you might not know this about me, but I'm a master omelet chef.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
It's just a super, super easy meal that I have in my back pocket. So I always tell my clients, you want to actually prepare for the worst and always have backup meals. And also then when it even gets beyond the backup meals, if you've got, pizzas in the freezer and you feel really guilty about eating that frozen meal that's not healthy, I'm here to tell you as a nutritionist, it's going to happen sometimes. And the best way to pivot is to look at that meal differently. If you're going to be having, a frozen pizza or a lasagna for dinner that, was just kind of a last ditch effort to get a meal on the table for the family, balance your plate. If you've got vegetables in the freezer, steam up some veggies and put some balance on your plate. If you've got salad in the fridge, try to serve it with a salad. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It has to be real. And so I always come back to just looking at the balance of your plate. A lot of times that's where we go wrong. Pizza doesn't have to be unhealthy. Pasta doesn't have to be unhealthy, but it doesn't have to be the only thing on your plate either.
I'm guilty of that. I was like, oh, it's pizza. And then it's just like, let's eat it. This is going to be fun. What about the prep? Like, I'm curious for you, if you don't mind, like sharing the details of how you do it. Like, for you, is it a Sunday afternoon thing? You said you have 4 meals planned. Is this just like while you're driving to daycare, you're like, okay, what are my meals this week? Or do you have like a ritual of like sitting down and planning it out? Like, how does that all work for you?
I don't right now have a ritual of like sitting down every week. I am kind of in the thick of it. I've got 2 under 2. I'm diaper duty 24/7 when I'm not working. So I actually have like a running grocery list on my phone at all times. And we've got our staples. My oldest son drinks a lot of milk. So every week we have to get whole milk. I know we need eggs every week. So I'm always filling in the staples that we're running out of. And then as the week goes through, I just think of some of the easy recipes that we know. And then I typically try to have one new recipe a week, just to have something new to look forward to. And that's what I often recommend to my clients too. So I'll go on Pinterest, I'll, Google search something and try to incorporate one new recipe a week. Outside of that, as far as like planning dinners, then I typically follow like some type of suit. So we like to do tacos on Tuesdays. So we'll do different variations of tacos. That can be a super easy meal to make. If you do like beef or chicken or turkey, cooking up the ground meat is most of the prep. And then you've got the toppings. And then we do often do something that's actually already thrown together. So like stuffed peppers, I will often, they're not the best option or as good as making it yourself, but I'll buy the ones that are ready to go in the like produce section at Costco.
Okay.
So those are something that we keep in our back pocket. And then like I said, I typically plan like a breakfast for dinner once a week, whether that's us just cooking up eggs and toast, making omelets and egg bake. So we follow kind of a similar pattern throughout the week, but I try to switch up the way we're having those meals. As far as prep for me goes, I do salads for myself for lunch during the week because I can easily prep all of my lunches in like 10 minutes.
Okay.
So when I need like a quick protein option, I actually will even buy the pre-boiled peeled eggs, cut those up, throw them on the salads, tuna, chicken, if we have extra protein cooked up, all like the basic recommendations that you've heard for years. And then we just cook dinner each night. So sometimes I'll do leftovers, but often I will save those for my husband for his lunch the next day. And but as far as prep on Sundays go, I typically use that time to prep our produce. So my son is super into grapes right now. So I come home on Sunday with a huge thing of grapes. I get them in the sink, wash them, take them off the vines, get them in Tupperware so he can eat those. Cut up our veggies. I like to have like hummus and other like veggie dips out and just have like cut up cucumbers and things like that for easy grab and go. But outside of that, I don't do a lot of the standard like hunker down on Sunday and prep all the meals for the week.
Got it.
But that's kind of just, like I said, there's different stages of life. So I'm in the baby phase and have very little time outside of helping those two babies that need me for pretty much everything.
Yeah. So Sunday, is that shopping, like grocery shopping too?
That's what I try for. So it totally depends on the week. Sometimes I try to actually even fit it in on Fridays when the kids are still at daycare. So for parents that have that option, I'm sure anyone with kids would agree, it's a lot easier to run into the store without kids rather than having kids in the cart with you. So when my schedule allows, I try, because I manage my schedule at work, obviously owning my business, I try to be done early on Fridays so I could run to the store. It doesn't always happen. So if that is the case, then it's either Saturday or Sunday.
Okay.
So I guess flexibility is a big part of how I get through and not sticking rigid to any specific plan, but always having backups, which I'm sure you'd agree too. Then I always like to keep stuff in the freezer. We've always got like extra protein in the freezer, whether it's steak, chicken, seafood, organic chicken sausage, and then frozen veggies like cut up sweet potatoes, frozen broccoli, anything that if we don't get to the store, I could at least throw a meal together and we're going to survive until I get to the store.
Yeah, absolutely. Freezer, huge for us. And like years ago when we got an extra freezer, it was like, we're good. We are good. Like, yeah. So then it's like, oh, we didn't get to the store. It's just two of us though. Like, that's why you're here. Tell me how it really works for a family. Like if we don't get to the store, we're like, oh, we can make it another week.
Well, my kids are super young, so it's also like pretty easy to get enough food in front of. I mean, one of them is on purees and bottles, so that's easy.
Okay.
And the other one, I mean, he eats pretty much what we eat, but smaller portions. And but he's eating 24/7. So it's important to keep like fresh produce. He's always walking around with like grapes and raisins and cheese.
Nice. So I want to just kind of, as wrapping up, the question I want to ask is for a parent who maybe they're in your stage, maybe they're later, their kids are older, but it's real, like the overwhelm and the stress, and at the same time they're listening here because they want to begin making healthier choices. What advice would you give to that person?
Well, the first most important piece of advice that I would have is to get help. So you need a plan set and forth. I mean, you and I do this for a living, right? And it's still hard. Like you
Right.
mentioned, I mean, you've got yourself and your wife, but you've also got jobs. And, I've got myself, my husband, my kids. I studied this. I have a master's degree in this, and it's still hard for me. So to take some of the pressure off yourself, know this isn't plain and simple, and that there are whole industries designed to help people with this, to come up with a plan, to take that pressure off yourself. So you don't have to do everything yourself. And the other most important piece, I've seen you post, things like this all the time. Start today with what you have. It's not about being perfect, and kind of taking a step back, giving yourself some grace, just like you would your own kids or your family member who's struggling. Don't expect perfection from yourself. Strive for balance and take it one day at a time, because some days are going to be really great and some days are going to be survival mode.
Awesome. I love the balance that you have, that you teach. Like, I guess the word real is what comes to mind. Like, it's just real. Like, and it's a balance, as I'm listening to you now, not of just hacks and tips and tricks. Like, there's those, but there's also like mindset help.
Mhm.
Like, let's get them both going at the same time. Like, there's no magic here. It's like having the right focus, staying flexible, giving yourself grace, and keep your grocery list on your phone and get some help. And it's great. I think it's just what we need to hear. So
I think the biggest aha moment that any person can have is when you realize it's not about like that all or nothing mindset, or it's not about being perfect. When you can learn to just live in your circumstances and apply balance, however it's thrown at you every single day, you're actually going to get where you want to be quicker than trying to do it perfectly all the time. So, I mean, that's something I've worked in this field for over 10 years, we were talking about earlier. And it took me, even being a professional in this field, probably almost 10 years to have that aha moment myself and realize you have to, again, give yourself grace. You have to focus on balance, and every day is not going to be perfect. Even though I'm a nutritionist, I, eat frozen pizza. And guess what? I'm still breathing.
still smiling, still breathing. Yeah. Yes. Awesome. What is the best way for people to follow your work or get in touch with you?
So if they want to follow along, they can definitely follow my business, Integrative Health and Wellness, on Facebook or Instagram. That's where we're most active. I do work with people all over the country. So, individuals who are interested in learning more can reach out to us via phone or at our website, which is integrativewi.com.
Okay. Awesome. Amanda Zagrodnik, thanks so much for being here again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I want to thank Amanda once again for being here on the show. And I will link to the mentions that she had there on ways to stay in touch with her. I'll link to those in the show notes, both her website and her Instagram, where she and her team are very active. I want to take just a moment to talk about a word that she used: balance, balancing, being balanced. We use that a lot. And here's my take on it. And you're going to see that my philosophy here when it comes to balancing is very similar to what Amanda was talking about in the interview. And really the essence of what her theme was there for you and me. And it's encapsulated in this quote that I heard a speaker once say. Balance is not something that you ever have. It's something that you do. Balance is not something you ever have. It's something you do. Isn't that cool? And it makes a lot of sense, right? We never are like, hey, great, I flipped the switch. Now I'm balanced. I'm done. I just have to keep doing what I'm doing here and I'll stay balanced. It doesn't work that way. But in life, we're always balancing, right? Just like riding a bike down the street. You see someone doing it, it looks like they're just pedaling along in a straight line. But the reality is, what are they doing? They are just making tiny little adjustments, right? To steering, to leaning, so that they can be balancing on that bike as they go down the road. And that's what we need to do in life. Things happen. We have to constantly be adjusting to them, being flexible, having a backup plan. Amanda mentioned that. That's what works for her. And she mentioned when she made that realization that that's what this is all about, balancing, that it was a huge shift for her. And this is something that we've talked about here before. We talked about it last week with Dr. Wagner. Same concept, right? Balancing. Always balancing. Things happen and you make adjustments. That's the way that it's going to go. But here's the challenge. Here's the problem. And we've talked about this so many times, but in this context it applies so well, is that we think healthy is this place that we can just be. Now I'm healthy. Instead of thinking that we're always moving toward being a little bit healthier. We think of it as all or nothing. We think of it as, I flipped the switch and now I'm there. I'm doing the diet. I'm doing the program. And the problem with that is, I'll go back to my bike example. It would be the same as saying, I am going to ride this bike in a perfectly straight line. That's what I'm going to try to do. And if I veer off course, I'm going to get off the bike. And I'll pick the bike up and I'll move it back onto my straight line course, and then I'll get back on, and then I'll start pedaling again and try to stay on this straight line, like riding a bike on a tightrope, right? You're not going to get very far very quickly. But when you get into the concept of like, you know what, I'm staying on the road, I'm staying between the two sidewalks, between the two curbs here, I'm doing fine. I'm pretty much staying in my lane as I'm riding along. Then you're going to get somewhere. You're balancing the whole way, and if you swerve a little, have to steer around something, it's okay. I hope that's helpful for you. I hope that it takes some of the pressure off of you. Try not to fit into this mold of perfection, of doing everything, of hitting the calorie and macro numbers every day, or of keeping your carbs below a certain amount every single day. It's okay. Just balance as you go along. So again, I want to thank Amanda for being on the show and for reminding us of the importance of balancing when it comes to living a healthier lifestyle. Before I let you go, I want to tell you about something really cool that I have been working on. You're going to hear about it again and again and again because I'm super proud of it. I just finished writing an ebook. It's free. You could download it right now. It's called 5 Ways You're Wrecking Your Weight Loss. I want you to check it out. The best way for you to get to it, I'll link to it directly in the show notes, but the easiest way for you, if you're driving or you just want to keep this in mind, beginwithin.fit. Just go to our team's website, beginwithin.fit, and there is a button on the top of the page to download that ebook. It would mean so much to me if you would check it out. I hope you do. Put my blood, sweat, and tears into that thing, and I know that it's going to help. It's going to help you. We've gotten some really awesome reviews back on the first people that have had a chance to read it. So please check it out, beginwithin.fit. Download that ebook. Let me know what you think. I will talk to you again right here next week on the Begin Within podcast. If you are tired of feeling frustrated and disappointed with fitness and you're ready to get on the path to being the healthy person you want to be, just go to beginwithin.fit and click the Join Our Challenge button. We can't wait to support you in your fitness journey and help you to get the results you deserve.